So I just want to say for reference that even given this is already with like a 10-second lead for the PS5 that I wasn't able to capture because the PS4 wouldn't let me capture. Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is SockBot, and today I want to do a little bit of a comparison between the PS4 and the PS5 in terms of dreams and in terms of Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Now, to preface all of this, I want to say that I am very lucky to have gotten a PS5. I think I got the last one ever off of Sony's website for right now, because when I was desperately trying to get through the queue, I managed to get one in my cart and got rejected, and then ended up barely getting it 45 minutes to an hour later. I'm assuming it's because someone either canceled their order or had completed an order, but then the credit card didn't go through, so they restocked. But after I got that one, immediately after it, and for the rest of it, I saw absolutely no more stock. And I mention all of this because I was there for 3 days going through all of those queues that I know a lot of you have been through, and I know how stressful it was, and I know how annoying it is to see people in general getting one when you didn't, and also to see a lot of scalpers getting them. And I just want to say that I understand the frustration because I was there, because I went through all the Walmart queues, all the Target queues, and just about everything else that was entirely available. So I did the same thing. I just got lucky, and that's why we're here today. So I considered not making this video at all because I know how it can come across, but I figured I saw Project Genesis make one, and I wanted to make one myself because the more kind of data and visuals that you can see on this with people comparing it on their systems and just in general, I think can be helpful for anybody that is deciding whether or not they think it's time to try to get the next queue or to, but please do not buy from scalpers. I think it encourages them. But more importantly, just to kind of have it on your radar for whether or not you want to start saving up for the system whenever the stock actually starts, reappearing, I guess you could say. And pause, final PSA here. I did record some of the PS4 footage here in 720p. Mind, I was playing in 1080p. So I just wanted to say that before anybody gets on my case for actually having these in different resolutions. The only comparisons that I'll be showing here side by side and talking about in general are either one, based on my experience with actually playing it at the exact same resolution, or two, when I show them to you here, showing that there is very clearly a difference in either textures or something of the sort that is visible regardless of resolution. Now, that is my quick PSA. Feel free to tear me apart in the comments if you still don't agree with me, but that's just how we had to do it here because my capture device really doesn't like my PS4. Anyways, back to the video. So today I'm going to be talking largely about Dreams and Sackboy: A Big Adventure. I have a big comparison for Dreams, but I think that Project Genesis did a really good video showing a lot of different dreams about this, so I wanted to talk more about Sackboy: A Big Adventure because honestly, this is where I actually had a noticeable difference when I was playing personally, but at the same time, like I said before, this is not something that you are going to be missing out on. These games are gorgeous on PS4, and they run really well on PS4. It's just a matter of there is a boost when it comes to PS5, so it's not something that you're missing out on. It's not something you're going to notice unless you're consistently watching PS5 versions and comparing it to your PS4 version. And I played through most of Sackboy: A Big Adventure, like the first two worlds, on the PS4 before I replayed them on the PS5, and it was really fun and really awesome. So starting off with Dreams, because I don't want to get too far into that category quite yet, I want to talk about this big level that I chose to just compare things between the two platforms. So the first thing I noticed in the previous scene that you were probably just watching was the fidelity of the lights, and particularly the range of lighting effects on the PS5 is very noticeable. It took me a while to pinpoint why I think the PS5 version just looks a little bit better, but that seems to be the biggest change between the two. Not necessarily that the light sources are just brighter, but that there's a bigger range and more points in that range for the light in the PS5 version. For example, the ones that are supposed to be dim, the light sources that are just reflecting or just generally dimmer, are dimmer, but intentionally so in the PS5 version, whereas the direct light sources are much more vivid and bright without kind of blowing out the brightness of the whole scene. It's subtle, but it's definitely something that I noticed, and after watching it a few times, that seems to be the biggest difference for me. There are some minor differences in graphical fidelity when it comes to the fine, like, details, the very small details of the rocks, for example, in this level that show different cracks a lot more clearer on the PS5 version, where there are those harsh edges, but by harsh edges, I mean intentionally harsh edges. You can go back and watch it, but again, it is still very small, but it's noticeable in the bigger picture of things. So, moving on to Sackboy, because like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on dreams, because I know a lot of other people have, and also, it just really depends on the dream as to whether or not it's going to look better. But I wanted to talk about them in the same video, because I just have pretty mild opinions on both. Yes, you could see there's clearly a difference between the PS4 and PS5 versions in Dreams, but also what you have to realize is that it is recording in 720p on the PS4 and it's recording in 1080p on the PS5. Now, there's going to be a difference there, but I think you can still see, besides, just pixelation, that there is a very clear difference. But when you look at the Sackboy game, I honestly see even less of a difference, despite this one being very purposefully upgraded to PS5. Now, I can see the graphical fidelity, I can see like that obviously it's less pixelated, but what I can't really see as closely is the different textures being any more detailed on the PS5. I think that they might just be exactly the same textures upscaled, so I don't know. I feel like I'm not quite versed in this technology enough to know exactly why they look so similar, but here's to say that they just do. Now, when you look at other things, for example, look at the lighting effects, just like with Dreams, it is a very clear difference. The rays of light and the way that light reflects off of objects and just glows around objects is way, way more apparent in the PS5 version. You can tell by like the reflections on the bounce pads and a few other materials in the game that on PS5 it is just better. There is more depth to it, there's a greater range of lighting effects, and it doesn't extend to shadows so much, but especially when you see a reflective material that has any sort of reflectivity, it's very obvious that the PS5 does look pretty significantly better in that department. Now, I tried to look a little bit closer, specifically at the character creation, to try to get you a better comparison of the textures here. And you can see, like with the glowing green fabric or the reflective satin, you can tell that there's a difference, but I honestly think it's a lot harder to tell whether it's the pixelation from the different resolutions or if it actually is significantly different. I seem to kind of notice a better hair texture, or at least like a few more hairs in the density of one of the like the mohawk there, but honestly that really could just be a resolution issue, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't end up wanting to make completely separate videos of these, because the longer I go on this, the more I realize that it really just is a very subtle difference. Now, this isn't to hate on Media Molecule at all, or rather Sumo Digital. I always forget that they're making these games because they feel so Little Big Planet, but I honestly do not mean this to hate on them at all whatsoever. I think that the fact that they took the time to put these ray tracing effects into the game, and actually have these amazing lighting effects when you really look at it is awesome. I just want to say here that I don't think a lot of people are going to notice it unless they're looking out for it. And that's totally fine. Not everybody needs to pay attention to this stuff. Obviously, graphics are advancing at sort of a linear rate at this point. We've reached a point where things look really good, and the differences from here on out are pretty subtle. Now, again, other people might think that they're very obvious. Obviously, those of you that are very tech savvy, that are really into ray tracing, and maybe PC gamers out there that have had this for a while, are going to notice this difference. And that's why I want to say it's definitely there. I think that in Dreams, it's honestly more noticeable than in Little Big Planet, or rather in Sackboy Big Adventure. I'm going to keep doing that. I apologize. It's just going to keep happening. But it is noticeable. It's just a small thing for what I would assume is the majority of my audience who really cares about the gameplay. Granted, I really want to praise Sumo Digital for kind of going out of their way to add this stuff to the game, because it does make this game look
very impressive on the PS5. It definitely looks next gen compared to the PS4, but again, these generations are very close together. It's an impressive feat to do in a platformer like this, and I think it sort of does what Little Big Planet did on the PS3, where, if you don't remember, they took the art style that was very unique and interesting, but not super realistic. It's no Fallout game or any sort of that thing, but it is a very unique art style, and they just upped the lighting effects and the texture detail to make it look gorgeous despite the simplicity of it. And they've done that here too. And I think adding ray tracing, adding the better textures with hair that I think I'm seeing, but even if it's on the PS4 version, just adding that extra level of detail to a type of game that doesn't normally receive that sort of treatment is really cool, and I'm really happy that they did it. It's just, again, not something that everybody's going to notice unless they're looking out for it. I said that a bunch of times. I'm just going to finally end this with saying it's a nice surprise on the PS5 to see this looking so nice and see it looking even nicer than the PS4, but again, it's really not going to be a difference that everybody notices. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. You've seen the footage here. Is it bothering you that I only recorded in 720p on one of these? Because I apologize for that, but I did mention it at the beginning, so hopefully it didn't throw anybody off. But if you have seen a huge difference, if you played both versions, or if you're seeing the second version now, that when it says the PS5 version at the bottom and you're very surprised by it, let me know. Let me know if it's a huge difference for you, because that matters too. This is just my opinion and what I'm assuming would be a handful of other people's opinions too, because well, I'm not super crazy about graphics, so I assume there's a lot of people out there like me too. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did. Feel free to leave a like down below. Feel free to subscribe, all that sort of jazz. If you want a more in-depth comparison, let me know. This isn't the sort of video I normally do. I just saw a lot of people looking out for it, so that's why it's here. But regardless, thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys in the next video, but for now, goodbye, everybody.